Welcome to Asian Mystery Horror. Today, I bring to you the 2011 Chinese horror movie Mysterious Island, originally titled, Gu Dao Jing Hun. A 1 hour and 35-minute movie. This movie is great because it steers clear of gore, bloody scenes, and sexual content that often take over other films. It's a horror thriller mystery that has a talented cast and crew, keeping you on the edge of your seat right until the end. You can enjoy a horror movie without all that extra stuff, which drew me to this movie. Just a heads up, spoiler alert and full movie synopsis. Cast: Yang Mi as Shen Yilin and the little boy's mom, Jordan Chan as Peng Fei, Janelle Tsai as Ji Chun, Anya Wu as Chen Liang, Yunam Wang as Zhang Xiaolong, Hayama Hiro as Ono, Shan Tam as Ken, Yongyan Su as Stanley, Zhang Li as Peng Fei the child, Philip Kung as Chen Jaedong, Yu Rongzhang as the nurse, Maida as Chen Jaedong's father. Director: Kai Chung, Writer: Yang Lan, Editor: Chen Kai Hop. Now on to the movie. The film begins with a group of individuals walking through a forest. Next, the movie transitions to a flashback set in the past. It takes place in the Java Sea in 1970, located in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Penang Island. There's a cemetery, and a sign on a mausoleum that reads, "No man is an island." As the camera pans, trees and urns come into view. A strong wind blows, swirling leaves around the urns as if they are disturbed. A few moments later, a woman is seen running hand in hand with a little boy. Suddenly, a ghostly figure appears out of nowhere, chasing the woman and the boy. The malevolent spirit grabs the woman, causing her to let go of the boy's hand. The entity then hurls the woman through the air, and she crashes to the ground. The boy turns around as she falls and screams, "Mom!" Before she draws her last breath, she urges her son to run away, and now she's dead. The boy runs until he reaches a tiny cave. He hears a noise approaching, so he swiftly conceals himself within the cave and covers his ears to block out the sound that frightens him. The camera zooms in on a tattoo located on the young boy's neck. Something moves closer to the cave, and as he looks up, he notices a hand extending towards him from outside the cave. Now returning to the present. A peaceful ocean spreads out before you, and in the distance, an island can be seen with a yacht making towards that same island. The scene then switches to a metal tower, with captions stating, OEC Group Headquarters. Inside the building, the CEO is in his office watching an exclusive interview from the show titled Search Planet. This reality survival television program features a group of individuals embarking on a treasure hunt on an island. The camera moves past each contestant while the female announcer describes the contest's rules, the stakes involved, including life and death, and so on. The goal is to find a yellow flag hidden somewhere on the island. And whoever finds the yellow flag wins $1 million. Which is the equivalent to 7,198,500 Chinese yuan. Now we're back in the office, and he is smiling while watching a television interview. The door opens, and a nurse enters his office, wheeling an elderly man into the room. The CEO Chen Jiadong stops smiling when an elderly man calls out to him. He turns around and sees a nurse wheeling an old man into his office, and the CEO asks, "Dad, why are you not at the hospital?" His father pleads with him repeatedly not to allow anyone near the island, while his nurse watches him with a look of concern. Later, his father repeatedly pleads with him not to let anyone near the island, while his nurse watches him with concern. He responds to his father, saying that the island is theirs and that it would be a shame not to utilize it, especially since it has remained unused for centuries. Despite his father's ongoing pleas to avoid using the island or allowing anyone close to it, he insists on his plans to create amusement parks and tourist attractions throughout Asia, mentioning that his investors and the media are already aware of his intentions. He feels compelled to proceed, believing there is no turning back at this point. His father continues to urge him not to go or let anyone approach the island. The CEO then approaches his father's nurse and tells her not to waste his time any longer and to take him back to the hospital. The nurse glances at him with displeasure but complies with his request. In this scene, there is a cemetery, and a sign on a mausoleum reads, "No man is an island." As the camera pans, trees and urns come into view. A strong wind blows, swirling leaves around the urns as if they have been disturbed. The setting takes place in the Java Sea in 1970, which is located in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Penang Island. In this scene, there is a cemetery, and a sign on a mausoleum that reads, "No man is an island." As the camera pans, trees and urns come into view. A strong wind blows, swirling leaves around the urns as if they have been disturbed. The setting is in the Java Sea in 1970, on Penang Island, which is located in the Pacific Ocean. In this scene, there is a cemetery, and a sign on a mausoleum reads, "No man is an island." As the camera pans, trees and urns come into view. A strong wind blows, swirling leaves around the urns as if they have been disturbed. The setting takes place in the Java Sea in 1970, on Penang Island, which is located off the coast of the Pacific Ocean. In this scene, there is a cemetery, and a sign on a mausoleum reads, "No man is an island." As the camera pans, trees and urns come into view. A strong wind blows, swirling leaves around the urns as if they have been disturbed. A few moments later, you notice a woman running while holding hands with a young boy. Suddenly, a ghostly figure appears out of nowhere, pursuing the woman and the boy. The malevolent spirit grabs the woman, causing her to let go of the boy's hand. It then hurls the woman through the air, and she crashes violently to the ground. As she falls to her demise, the boy turns around and screams, "Mom!" Just before her last breath, she urges her son to hurry and escape, and then she passes away. The scene fades to black and then back in, revealing the entrance to a cave. Something approaches the cave, and we see a boy looking inside. He then decides to go inside to hide. The camera focuses on a tattoo on his neck as the boy covers his ears. A breeze flows into the cave, and the boy uncovers his ears. He hears giggling and looks up toward the cave's opening. He sees a hand reaching for him. Now, the scene fades to black and then back in, revealing the entrance to a cave. Something approaches the cave, and we see a boy looking inside. He then decides to go inside to hide. The camera focuses on a tattoo on his neck as the boy covers his ears. A breeze flows into the cave, and the boy uncovers his ears. He hears giggling and looks up toward the cave's opening. He sees a hand reaching for him. Now back to the present. There's a calm sea and you can see an island in the distance and a yacht head towards the island. Then the movie cuts to a metal tower and the captions read, "OEC Group Headquarters." Now inside of the building, the CEO is in his office watching the exclusive interview of the show called Search Planet, a reality survival television show about a group of people who goes on an island for a treasure hunt. The camera is panning by each contestant while the female announcer is explaining the rules of the contest. What's at stake, life and death, and etc. The goal is to find a yellow flag hidden somewhere on the island. And whoever finds the yellow flag wins $1 million. Which is the equivalent to 7,198,500 Chinese yuan. Now we're back in the office and he is watching television interviews smiling. The door opens and then a nurse comes into his office wheeling an old man into the room. The CEO Chen Jiadong stops smiling as the old man calls out to him. He turns around, sees a nurse pushing an old man in his office in a wheelchair, and the CEO says, "Dad, why aren't you in the hospital?" His father is begging him over and over not to let anyone anywhere near the island. As his nurse looks at him with concern, he tells his dad that the island belongs to them, and what a shameful waste not to use the island. Since the island belongs to them and hasn't been used for centuries. His father continues to plead with his son not to use, approach, or allow anyone else near the island. He repeatedly informs his dad about his plans to construct amusement parks and tourist attractions throughout Asia, claiming that his investors and the news media are fully aware of this. So he must proceed with this as there is no turning back now. His father continues to plead with his son not to leave or allow anyone near the island. The CEO approaches his father's nurse and informs her not to waste any more of his time and to return him to the hospital. The nurse gives him a displeased look, but complies with his request. The nurse wheels the elderly man to an offering shrine where he is pleading with Buddha to bless the island that he constantly tried to warn his son about. As you gaze at the Buddha on the wall, you will notice the shape of a skull's head beginning to form. Meanwhile, the contestants on the yacht are enjoying themselves as they travel toward their destination. If you look closely at the water, you will see a shape emerging. As the ship passes overhead, the camera focuses on the shape beneath the yacht. Appears as if something is rising from the ocean toward the bottom of the yacht. Now you get to meet the contestants. Shen Yilin, Peng Fei, Chen Liang, Oh no, Shi Nan, Tina, Ji Chun, and Xiao Long. Now we start with Peng Fei as he starts taking pictures or aiming the camera at the girls. He aims the camera low, as Ji Chun comes from below deck opening the door, accidentally hitting Peng Fei, which surprises him as he is taking pictures. She notices Peng Fei acting strange and clutching his camera tightly. So she asks him what is he taking pictures of and tells him not to lie to her. Peng Fei just starts looking around. Ji Chun pushes him to the side and takes his camera, to look at the photos he took. Now everyone is looking at them trying to figure out what's going on. Then all of a sudden Shen Yilin gets nauseous and runs to the deck of the yacht. Shi Nan notices this and walks out to the deck of the yacht to check on her. He performs a magic trick and pulls out a flower from thin air. He hands the rose to her and asks if she's all right. She takes the rose in amazement and tells him she's fine. Now as the TV crew starts, Ken the cameraman is filming. Stanley the female TV announcer, lets the public watching the show on television know that the contestants are ready to go. And that $1 million or 7,204,700 Chinese yuan is waiting for the winner. The camera pans out to the sea and shows a school of fish headed straight for the yacht. Stanley is interviewing the contestants, asking if they are ready, what are you thinking, stuff like that. They answer looking confident, but then the camera pans back to the sea showing the school of fish swimming towards the yacht. Shen Yilin is standing on the deck of the yacht assuring herself, I can't lose, I won't let the others look down on me. Now Stanley is asking Peng Fei if he is ready and where his partner is. Peng Fei is sitting there looking around confused. Now the yacht still headed towards the island. Shi Nan now walks over to Ji Chun as she complains about the weather. Now the school of fish swims into the propeller of the yacht, which tosses everyone all over the yacht. And the bags fall into the sea. Shen Yilin falls off the yacht into the sea, as the waves and the wind pick up. The ocean calms down and the wind dies down, and you see Peng Fei carrying Shen Yilin onto shore. Then he collapses onto the shore beside her. Ono is standing there looking out into the sea. Ken is telling Stanley that all their luggage is gone, but they still have the satellite phone and it's still working. Shi Nan is telling Peng Fei and Shen Yilin that everyone is ahead of them and that they must get moving to catch up with them. Now the camera turns to the first team of Peng Fei and Shen Yinli. Peng Fei finds his bag near a tree. He picks up the bag but he feels like something or someone is watching him. He quickly turns around and sees nothing or no one there. But there is smoke or smog surrounding the forest. Shen Yinli has a small container with a chain on around her neck. Looking around to make sure no one's looking, she slips the container inside her shirt. Something big is floating underneath the water's surface. The second team, Xiao Long and Chen Liang. Xiao Long is telling his partner Chen Liang that they don't have a map and that they might lose the game. She looks at him and grins, telling him they will find a way, even if they don't have the map. The third team, Tina and Ono. Tina asks Ono if their map is really lost and he just looks at her and says, "Oh God." Peng Fei tells Shen Yilin, no one has a map now, so she looks to make sure no one is around. Then pulls the cylinder out of her shirt and looks at him. Looking at each other, she puts the. Now everybody meets up and they are now looking at the both of them. As Shen Yilin turns around, the other teams are gathered around them. Shen Yilin and Peng Fei are looking at each other. Now they are hiking across a mountain and now everyone is following them because the others know that they are the only ones with a map. Peng Fei devises a plan to lose the others but with no luck, so they try to devise another plan to lose them. He motions to Shi Yilin and then counts to 3 for the to start running. He and Shi Yilin start running, but the others are still behind them. Tina cries for help and Shen Yilin turns to go back and help her, but Peng Fei tells N to come on and not to stop. Shen Yilin goes back and asks Tina if she's all right. She sits up and says no, I'm fine, brushing the dust off of herself. Tina tells Shen Yilin that she's just waiting for the others to show up, with a smug grin on her face. Tina tricked them in row, slowing down so the others could catch up. Shen Yilin just stands there while Peng Fei lightly taps her on the head. And gives her a look as the others circle them like vultures. When Shen Yilin realizes she had been tricked, she is annoyed and feels foolish for stopping to help. Ken pulls the camera up and asks Shen Yilin if there's something she wants to say. She turns her head and lightly pushes the camera away from her. So then Ken turns to Peng Fei and Peng Fei tells him to stop and get out of his face. In the meantime, Ono notices that there is something moving among the tall grass around them. When they all notice, they start to run in different directions except for Ono, who stands there and pulls out his large hunting knife. He throws his knife and hits a boar. The boar cries out in pain. Everyone comes back and Ono tells them to be quiet as he's pulling the knife out of the boar's carcass. He tells them that boars come out in packs. Stanley asks him why. All of a sudden they all can hear something rustling in the tall grass. They are looking around nervous and a little scared. You can see the wild boar's red eyes. Chen Liang suggests that everyone run. They all run in different directions while Ono is still kneeled down by the boar he killed, holding the knife up, and looking in the direction of the moving brush. As Peng Fei is running, he accidentally runs into a hornet's nest with his head, causing the nest to fall to the ground. The hornets come out of the busted nest and starts attacking him. Peng Fei starts running again until he trips and falls into a small puddle of water. Ken and Stanley are fleeing from the hornets, with Ken swinging his backpack vigorously, inadvertently losing the satellite phone in the process. He then stumbles and slides down the steep hillside. Meanwhile, Stanley also swings her backpack, causing her to lose her bag as well. In a desperate move, she removes her shirt and uses it to swat at the hornets. Tina, in a panic, runs and climbs a tree, calling for assistance as a wild boar begins to circle the base of the tree she has ascended. As the branch beneath her gives way, she falls from the tree and tumbles down a short cliff. Chen Liang is running and ultimately finds herself sliding down a steep cliff, landing directly in the midst of a group of wild boars, locking eyes with them. Shen Yilin and Shi Nan are holding hands as they run until they reach the precipice of a cliff. Upon reaching a tree at the cliff's edge, he retrieves a rope from his bag and secures it to the tree, urging Shen Yilin to flee. She cautions him to be careful before she dashes away. He then begins his descent down the mountainside. Ji Chun is sprinting when she encounters a ravine. Attempting to leap over it, she miscalculates and falls short. She lands in the ravine, with the wild boar still advancing toward her. She retreats until she finds a drainage pipe. The boar attempts to pursue her but becomes ensnared by fallen branches, providing her with a moment to escape. Though disoriented, she perseveres onward. Xiaolong, also in flight, is pursued by a boar. He leaps upward, seizing a tree branch, and propels himself through the gap between two trees. He continues to run until he reaches the precipice of a steep cliff. Peering down, he realizes he has no option but to jump. Faced with the choice of jumping or confronting a boar with sharp teeth and crimson eyes, he takes the leap and surveys his surroundings. Although he feels disoriented, he presses on. Tina gazes upward, assessing how far she has fallen down the steep incline, while also scanning her surroundings, still feeling lost. Shi Nan is similarly disoriented. He hears a noise and looks up, spotting what appears to be a scarecrow hanging above him, which subsequently falls onto him. As night descends, the moon illuminates the dark sky. Everyone remains disoriented. Stanley finds refuge inside an old, abandoned truck when something suddenly lands on the vehicle, obscuring the windshield. She screams, but as the wind shifts, she realizes it is merely a tarp. Although relieved, she continues to hear unsettling noises. While scanning her surroundings, she notices something at the driver's side window, prompting her to scream again. At that moment, a voice reassures her, "It's me, Ken." Feeling both frightened and relieved, she kicks the truck door and exclaims, "You scared me." Although happy to see him, she is still shaken. He inquires about her well-being, mentioning that he has been searching for her. Naturally, she responds negatively, given the circumstances. He informs her that he has discovered something and reaches up to hand her an item, her microphone. They both share a light-hearted moment, as he comforts her, reassuring her that she is no longer alone. In the heart of the jungle, an old, deserted house stands, with something ominously swirling in the air above it. The wind has intensified, stirring up dust and creating an unsettling atmosphere around the structure. Eventually, they all converge at the dilapidated house. Outside, Shen Yilin begins to scream, prompting the others to rush out to investigate the cause of her distress. Shen Yilin rises and points at a skull from which a snake is emerging. Ken captures the entire scene on his camera, as this is a reality television show with a grand prize of $1 million, necessitating thorough documentation of all events. The camera sweeps across the eerie mansion, then shifts to the film crew and contestants. While filming the surroundings, Ken inquires, "What is this place?" Suddenly, the gate of the abandoned mansion creaks open, startling them, and they turn to see Chen Liang, who claims to have knowledge about the location. She begins to explain that the mansion was once a site for leprosy patients. Stanley appears confused, prompting Chen Liang to clarify that leprosy in the past was akin to how AIDS is perceived today, highly contagious and untreatable. She further explains that lepers believed that if they engaged in sexual relations with 20 individuals, they could transmit the disease to them and subsequently be cured. Consequently, the lepers would assault innocent women. In response, the villagers rounded up all the lepers and exiled them to an island for the remainder of their lives, while Western missionaries arrived to assist the afflicted. Ken then points to something on the ceiling and asks about it. She informs them that those are urns, containing the ashes of the lepers, who hoped that after their cremation, their families would retrieve their remains and return them to their homeland. The camera then focuses on the urns, as a gentle breeze stirs, dark clouds gather, and a powerful thunderclap interrupts the narrative. Chen Liang also tells them that the lepers' ashes were to remain on this island forever. Chen Liang also tells them that the lepers' ashes were to remain on this island forever. Xiao Long commented that the ghosts on the island are the spirits of the lepers that never got back home. Then all of a sudden one of the urns shatter and a strong wind blows the dust of the ashes blows through the inside of the abandoned mansion, then suddenly the doors slammed shut. Xiao Long tells everyone not to be startled. The wind did it, and shows them by opening and closing the door. So after the third time something is at the door which startles them. It's just Peng Fei. Peng Fei tells them that they must leave because he has a bad feeling about the island. Ji Chun reaches for the map, the one Shen Yilin had at first, because he wants them to leave so he can have the $1 million all to himself. He tells them to trust him. They are being smartasses, but when that wind come through again everyone jumps and looks outside. The thunder and dust from the urns looks AF if it's coming out of it little at a time. Now it's a larger gust of wind and more dust, finding out that the ashes came from inside the urns, so they are standing there and Peng Fei grabs a bench to block the door while everyone is waving the dust with their hand and protecting their face and eyes, and works his way to the door, closes and tells everyone to leave. Now the urn starts bursting open, which blows ashes everywhere, and Peng Fei is trying to keep the door closed, but the wind is so strong knocking him across the room. Then more urns started exploding, then everything calmed down. Everyone turn around and see a statue of Jesus hanging from the cross and see the words etched into the colored glass of the window. The world abandoned me. I abandoned the world. Newcomers. Kill. 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 Shen Yilin gasps and points upward to the ceiling to see urns coming down from the ceiling. Everyone notices that 8 urns are coming down from the ceiling, and Stanley looks at the one with her name. Chen Liang informs them that the ashes of the lepers are to remain on this island forever. Xiao Long remarks that the ghosts haunting the island are the spirits of the lepers who never returned home. Suddenly, one of the urns shatters, and a powerful gust of wind sweeps the ashes throughout the abandoned mansion, causing the doors to slam shut. Xiao Long assures everyone not to be alarmed, attributing the noise to the wind, and demonstrates by opening and closing the door. However, after the third instance, something appears at the door, startling them. It turns out to be Peng Fei. Peng Fei urges them to leave, expressing his unease about the island. Ji Chun reaches for the map that Shen Yilin had initially, motivated by the desire to claim the $1 million for himself. He implores them to trust him. Despite their sarcasm, when the wind gusts again, everyone jumps and peers outside, noticing that the thunder and dust from the urns seem to be gradually escaping. A stronger gust of wind carries more dust, revealing that the ashes are indeed emanating from the urns. As they stand there, Peng Fei grabs a bench to block the door while everyone waves their hands to shield their faces and eyes from the dust, urging each other to leave. At that moment, the urns begin to burst open, scattering ashes everywhere. Peng Fei struggles to keep the door closed against the fierce wind, which sends him crashing across the room. More urns explode, but then a sudden calm descends. Turning around, they see a statue of Jesus hanging from the cross, with ominous words etched into the colored glass of the window, "The world abandoned me. I abandoned the world. Newcomers. Kill. Kill. Kill." Shen Yilin gasps and points upward, noticing urns descending from the ceiling. Everyone observes that 8 urns are coming down, and Stanley fixates on one bearing her name. The group soon realizes that their names are inscribed on the urn. Shen Yilin inquires of Peng Fei whether this is what he had alluded to, but before he can respond, Ono interjects, claiming it is merely a prank orchestrated by the show's sponsors. Shi Nan concurs with Ono, seeking to bolster his own confidence and impress Shen Yilin. He suggests that the cameras are likely monitoring their every move, prompting him to roam around the house while shouting, "Hello!" He then steps outside, convinced he has identified the camera locations. As he approaches the urns, he gestures towards them, while the camera shifts focus back to the individuals inside the house, where Ken is filming the urns. Peng Fei instructs Ken to cease recording and pushes him aside. Suddenly, the urns begin to tremble and vibrate. Amidst the violent shaking, screams can be heard emanating from within them. As the urns continue to shake violently, Peng Fei rushes towards one, which subsequently explodes. The group recoils in shock, glancing around as they hear the sound of shattering glass. Peng Fei approaches the remnants of the urn, and his shadow is seen standing in the corridor, where he clasps his hands together in a gesture of prayer, causing the shadow to vanish. He then appears at the entrance of the house, repeating the same gesture, and a figure resembling him is spotted further down the corridor, also clasping its hands in prayer. Peng Fei turns around, performs the same hand-clapping gesture, and announces to everyone that he has chosen to withdraw from the contest. Shen Yilin approaches him, asking, "What about me?" He responds that if she wishes to survive, she must accompany him. The others regard him with disbelief, unwilling to leave, while Ono peeks from around a corner and Ji Chun remains focused on the map he possesses. As night falls, Chen Liang enters a room holding a candle. Upon noticing something unusual, she sets the candle down, while the rest of the group surveys their surroundings. Shi Nan attempts to reassure Shen Yilin that all is well. Stanley approaches a water faucet to rinse off, but as she surveys her surroundings, she suddenly hears a noise and notices a shadow darting behind her. Startled, she turns around to find Ken, who inquires if she is all right. Mistaking his concern for an attempt to frighten her, she playfully swats him with a towel, exclaiming that he scared her, although she reassures him that she is fine. Ken responds by saying that she frightened him as well. Ken suggests that there is something he can handle alone tonight, but she firmly insists on accompanying him and walks away. Ken remains stationary for a few moments, realizing that once she has made a decision, there is little he can do to change her mind. He grips his camera and calls out for her to wait. Meanwhile, Peng Fei cautiously opens a door and enters a dimly lit room, appearing to move an object from the wall. He is abruptly startled by Ono, who is standing outside the window, informing him that he may leave but must leave his map behind. Peng Fei protests, questioning how he can exit without the map. Ono taunts him, calling him a coward, especially after a few urns have shattered. He asks if Peng Fei heard the noise, suggesting that it indicates someone is destined to die. Frustrated with the conversation, Peng Fei tells Ono that if he wants the map, he should meet him at the beach in the morning. Ono retorts that they have already wasted an entire day and that time is of the essence, he must win the game. Peng Fei dismissively replies, "Whatever," which provokes Ono to angrily stab a knife into the window frame. This action causes something to flow across the ground and rise into the air. Later, Peng Fei sits in a chair when he hears a low growl. He stands up and swings at the source of the sound, which is coming from above the attic door. His swing causes the attic door to swing open, showering him with dust. Now, he searches for the bathroom to take a shower. Although there is no water initially, a low growling noise can be heard. Suddenly, the water turns on, and he feels something brush against him. Turning around, he discovers it is Ji Chun wrapping her arms around him. Chen Liang is in another part of the house gazing up at a picture, smiling. She walks over towards the picture and takes the picture down. She looks, she turns where she got the painting and see a square hole in the wall. She slowly walks towards the hole in the wall, she reaches towards the wall and a cat jumps out, which startles her and causes her to drop the painting. As she is adjusting her glasses she looks up and realizes, the picture had flipped. She sees the map so she grabs. Now Ken and Stanley are outside talking and he tells her that he can handle this himself, and asks her why she came out. She tells him that she knows something big is going to happen and she's not to miss out. He tells Stanley that this place just feels wrong and asks her what if there are ghosts. So she tells him if there are ghosts get on camera and they will be famous. He looks up at her, nods his head, then he and Stanley and they are both looking at the footage they collected on the camera. Chen Liang is in another part of the house gazing up at a picture, smiling. She walks over towards the picture and takes the picture down. She looks, she turns where she got the painting and see a square hole in the wall. She slowly walks towards the hole in the wall, she reaches towards the wall and a cat jumps out, which startles her and causes her to drop the painting. As she is adjusting her glasses she looks up and realizes, the picture had flipped. She sees the map so she grabs. Now Ken and Stanley are outside talking and he tells her that he can handle this himself, and asks her why she came out. She tells him that she knows something big is going to happen and she's not to miss out. He tells Stanley that this place just feels wrong and asks her what if there are ghosts. So she tells him if there are ghosts get on camera and they will be famous. He looks up at her, nods his head, then he and Stanley and they are both looking at the footage they collected on the camera. Chen Liang investigates the square hole where the painting hung in, finds a diary wrapped up in a dusty rag which she grabs. She perceives a series of knocks, prompting her to step outside and survey her surroundings, ultimately directing her gaze towards another deserted house. The camera then zooms in, revealing Peng Fei securing a window while the others are preoccupied with deciphering the map. Chen Liang discreetly sits down, ensuring she remains unseen as she retrieves her diary. As Peng Fei continues to board up the windows, a shadow flits past the window, causing everyone to halt their activities. While Feng Fei is engaged in boarding the window, Shen Liyin stands outside, questioning him about his desire to abandon the game. He urges her to trust him and to join him. She requests the return of the map, asserting that it originally belonged to her. He persistently attempts to persuade her that the island harbors malevolence and that they should depart, as he senses the presence of spirits, along with their grievances, anger, and suffering. He inquires if she can feel the ghost's presence. She responds, "If you don't disturb them, they won't disturb you," adding, "Moreover, I cannot quit now, I am weary of being looked down upon, and I am doing this for my parents. Please do not ask." While he is not inquiring, he does implore her to trust him. She continues to demand the map, banging on the window as he persists in boarding them up, advising her to return when she has reconsidered. As she turns to leave, she suddenly pivots back towards the window, calling out to Peng Fei, oblivious to a shadowy figure moving behind her. She is still calling out to Peng Fei. All of a sudden Peng Fei is thrown outside through the wall by an unseen force. The other contestants hears Peng Fei being tossed through the air as Shen Liyin starts screaming. Then everyone runs outside to see what's going on. They run outside to help him, but they see he has been thrown off of the top floor of the house. Stanley and Ken look over the railing but don't see him. Then Ken runs to tell Stanley he knows what to do and she follows him. They get to the ground where Peng Fei's body landed, then Ken pulls out his camera and notices blood in the sand, but not Peng Fei's body. So they follow the trail of blood until they see someone fall off the side of the cliff. Stanley starts to run and help. Ken grabs her and tells her to stop and think a minute. Because he doesn't know what he saw was real or not. Ken takes the footage he filmed back to show the others. Shen Yinli tells them that it's Peng Fei. Xiao Long says it must be a leprosy killer, and so the others point out that leprosy happened at least 100 years ago, so that person would have to be over 100 years old. Tina asks if they still believe having sex with others to pass it on to them. One of them comments that the lepers must have had children. Again she says it's impossible. So he points to the photos on the mantle of the old house showing people with children and families. Ken agrees with Shi Yilin. Ji Chun telephones them it's a ghost, but the ghost was one of them. Stanley requests an explanation regarding Ken's video. Chen Liang, positioned behind the image, informs them that night vision goggles do not provide a complete view and that the killer was not observed. Tina inquires whether the leprosy ghost is attempting to drive them away. Xiao Long expresses his belief that a person is pursuing the map and suspects that the killer already possesses it. He notes that since Peng Fei is deceased, anyone in possession of the map cannot effectively utilize it or escape the island, thereby identifying that individual as the killer. Furthermore, if that person has the map and is capable of leaving the island, it confirms their status as the killer. Shen Yilin tells them it's not a leprosy killer, and starts telling them what she saw. Xiao Long tells them it's a leper ghost. Shi Nan tells that others that if they find the map, they will also find the killer. Xiao Long tells them he doesn't care who the killer is, he's already killed for the map. Shen Yilin lets them know that if the killer has the map, he is not going to reveal him/her as the killer. Xiao Long comes up with a plan. He tells everyone to go to their own rooms for 10 minutes and don't peek. That should give the killer enough time to leave the map here and not be called out as the killer. Then once they get the map they can call the police. Ji Chun asks what there is no map here in 10 minutes. He tells her that if there is no map found back here in 10 minutes, they have no choice but to face the killer or leper ghost. They voted and only Shen Yilin agreed. Ono angrily jumps up and says that the person who doesn't want to follow the rules is the killer and walks away. The scene transitions to another room within the house, resembling an altar or a church, where Ken is seated. Stanley arrives, and they engage in a form of silent communication before she takes a seat on the exterior stairs. Ken remains inside the altar while Stanley is positioned outside on the stairs, both directing their cameras towards the woods. In another part of the house, Ji Chun is lying in bed, and there appears to be a body wrapped in a blanket nearby. As Ji Chun sits up, she hears a noise and, just as she is about to look beneath her bed, an unseen force abruptly pulls the body away. Upon checking, she finds nothing there and, noticing the cats, she assumes they are the source of the noise, which she confirms when she hears one meow. In response, she throws an object to silence the cat. Meanwhile, Shen Yilin is in her room lighting candles when she hears growling sounds and observes a shadow on her wall. Simultaneously, Ken perceives a disturbance as a shadow looms in his doorway. A sudden gust of wind swirls leaves around him, accompanied by strange noises. As he looks down, he notices shadows darting across the room through his camera lens, followed by a pair of unsettling eyes. At that moment, Stanley glances up and sees the shadow of a person with their head bowed, moving slowly. Suddenly, she hears a scream and rushes out to check on Ken. His camera remains, but he is nowhere to be found. After a few minutes, Stanley hears another scream and hurries back to the location where Ken was last seen, calling out for him, but receives no response. Stanley yells at him to stop joking around as she goes after him. Ken finds himself in a room resembling a hospital, complete with beds and medical equipment, when he begins to hear strange noises. He becomes increasingly frightened as he peers through the sheet of an old hospital room, observing something that appears to be moving toward him and then away again. Overcome with fear, he flees the room. Meanwhile, Stanley follows the apparition, whether it be a ghost or spirit, toward a staircase. Upon reaching the stairs, she notices Ken's hat resting on one of the steps. Cautiously, she ascends the stairs, calling out for Ken, but receives no response. Undeterred, she continues to call his name when suddenly, picture frames begin to tumble from the walls, and objects start to shift on their own. Alarmed, Stanley runs outside, where she discovers Ken lying on the ground, screaming in agony with his leg ensnared in a bear trap. He eventually loses consciousness due to the pain. Stanley calls out to him, and he lifts his head, startling her. In response, she strikes him, admonishing him not to frighten her again. He winces in pain and asks if she intends to remove the bear trap from his leg. She glances down, noticing the trap, and inquires if he is all right, urging him to remain calm. As she attempts to pull the bear trap off, something seizes Stanley's legs and drags her away from Ken. Ken reaches out for Stanley, but an unseen force intervenes, yanking her around and throwing her back to the ground near him. Stanley is dead. Now, Ken gazes at Stanley, tears streaming down his face as he pleads with her to stop joking. Despite his cries and efforts to rouse her, Stanley is dead. Returning to Shin Liyan and the others. Shi Nan is outside, filling a water bottle, unaware of the snake climbing on the branch beside him. He takes his bottle and heads back inside. Everyone is now gathered in the same room, gazing up at the damaged urn inscribed with Stanley's name. Ken sits there, visibly furious. Ono breaks the silence, asserting that a killer remains among them. Tina inquires about the identity of the murderer. Ono responds that he will uncover the truth as he turns his gaze towards Xiaolong. Tina warns Ono that they will all fall victim to the leprosy killer before he can identify the culprit. Ji Chun slams an object onto the table, chastising Tina for her loose tongue and questioning whether she has seen the killer. Xiaolong interjects, suggesting they will be killed by the rat, directing his comment at Ono, before facing the specter of death. Xin Yilin prepares to speak. Ji Chun interrupts her, essentially telling her to remain silent, claiming she already knows what Xin Yilin intends to say and dismissing the existence of ghosts. Xin Yilin insists that she has witnessed something. Upon mentioning Peng Fei, Ono retorts that he was not a man but a coward. She reminds him that Peng Fei is deceased and admonishes him not to speak ill of the dead. In response, he labels both her and Peng Fei as cowards. Shi Nan admonishes Ono to be cautious with his words, asserting that he is not a virtuous individual either. Ono questions what Shi Nan means by that. Chen Liang intervenes, urging both to calm down. Shi Nan grabs Ono by the collar, and suddenly, they all collapse. Ken lifts his head, revealing a full moon, indicating that it is now the following morning. Xin Yilin awakens, but she is not in the same room as the others. She finds herself outside, leaning against a bench. The wind begins to blow fiercely, prompting her to grab a swinging board. As she retreats into the house, she accidentally bumps into a cabinet and decides to hide inside. Inside the cabinet, she hears growling, indicating that something is approaching. When the cabinet door swings open, she screams. The contestants on the island initially believe they are encountering a ghost or an animal, but it turns out to be merely their fellow competitors. They inquire why she is hiding in the cabinet. Shen Liyin responds by stating that they are all still alive, to which Tina asserts that she would rather die than let them survive. Tina also informs Shen Liyin that she intends to stay with Stanley. When Shen Liyin inquires about Ken, they explain that they woke up to find him missing and decided to search for him. Xiaolong and Ji Chun assist her in exiting the cabinet. She questions why they did not wake her, and Ji Chun replies that they attempted to do so, but she remained unresponsive. Ono begins to regard Shen Liyin with a smug expression as she asks about Ken. They inform her that he has not yet been located. At that moment, Shinan rushes into the room where the others are gathered. Ono places his arm around Shinan, offering a reassuring smile while glancing down at Shinan's shoes. Noticing the blood on his shoes, Xiaolong inquires about it, prompting Shinan to claim ignorance. Xiaolong presses him for an explanation. Shinan, feeling cornered, asks if they are accusing him. Xiaolong clarifies that he does not wish to accuse him but insists that Shinan must explain the blood on his shoes, which he is unable to do. The atmosphere shifts as everyone begins to regard him as the potential culprit. As they move outdoors, escorting Shinan to another location, he pleads with Xiaolong to trust him, while Ono ensures he remains in place. They lead him to a different section of the abandoned house to isolate him from the group. While he continues to defend himself, Shen Liyin suddenly gasps and points at something in the corner of the room. All eyes turn to the source of her alarm, and Shinan, looking in that direction, sees a pit in the center of the floor. Ono shoves him into the pit, and the others stare at Ono as Shinan struggles to escape. He inadvertently steps on something concealed beneath a sheet or blanket, and a hand emerges, grasping his leg. Startled, he kicks out in fear. They instruct him to uncover what lies beneath, and as he does so, everyone recoils in horror upon realizing that it's Ken the cameraman. Shinan is still claiming his innocence, he didn't kill or hurt anyone. They remain frozen in shock and disbelief. Shinan approaches Ken's lifeless body, leans down, and as Ken suddenly rises, he seizes Shinan's arm, whispers something to him, and then collapses again, leaving Ken dead. Shinan surveys the group, likely fearing that they will hold him responsible for Ken's demise, prompting him to flee. Xiaolong glances at Ono before executing a cartwheel out of the window to intercept Shinan, while Ono stealthily approaches from behind. Realizing he has no escape, Shinan surrenders, and they escort him back inside, binding him to one of the house's support beams. As Tina secures him, Xiaolong inquires why he killed the others. They question him about whether he poisoned the water that caused everyone to lose consciousness. Shinan counters by stating that he was also unconscious. Ono then informs Shinan that he was the one who revived him. At that moment, Ji Chun enters and announces that she cannot locate the map or the camera. The group begins to search, discovering that another urn has exploded, bearing Shinan's name. Shinan pleads for his release, claiming that his urn is the next to burst, indicating he is the next victim. As everyone deliberates their next move, Shi Liyin suddenly instructs them to free him. Ji Chun interjects, urging them to consider the possibility of two killers being involved. She becomes convinced that Shinan has an accomplice, pointing out that there is always one person unaccounted for whenever an incident occurs. The group collectively pauses and simultaneously exclaims, "Chen Liang Liang!" Meanwhile, Chen Liang Liang has discovered the camera and the map, climbing the cliff with the camera secured to her side. She sits down to examine a diary she found, then retrieves a compass and begins her journey. Outside, a thick fog envelopes the forest as the group searches for Chen Liang. In the distance, she struggles through the dense underbrush. Chen Liang is now seen navigating through the forest, glancing around in confusion as she realizes she is lost. As she moves away, a cave, the same one featured at the beginning of the film, comes into view behind her. Meanwhile, Nan remains bound to a support beam inside the house, while the girls traverse the dense fog. Ji Chun observes that Ono and Xiaolong are absent, prompting them to search for their companions. However, as they look around, the fog thickens increasingly. Returning to Chen Liang, she emerges from the forest with a smile upon spotting the entrance to a cave. As she approaches, a low growl resonates, followed by a fierce gust of wind rustling the trees. She swiftly turns to check for any presence but finds nothing. Assuming it to be Ono playing a prank, she calls out to him and begins her search. Following a path, she stumbles over an object, causing the camera to tumble and slide down the cliff. She quickly assesses the distance to the bottom and rushes to retrieve it before anyone else can. Amidst the trees, tall grass, and encroaching darkness, Chen Liang employs her flashlight to locate the camera. Hearing a noise, she cautiously reaches for a sizable rock and hurls it into the tall grass to investigate. When nothing stirs, she throws another rock, but again, there is no response. Suddenly, an object is thrown back at her, striking her on the head, causing her to collapse to the ground. Gradually regaining her composure, she hears an eerie sound carried by the wind, only to be struck by a second rock. A barrage of large rocks begins to rain down upon her, and despite her attempts to evade them, she cannot escape their impact. Seeking refuge behind a large tree, she continues to be pelted by the rocks. She turns to flee when a large rock is hurled, striking her in the face. The scene then shifts to another urn exploding simultaneously as Chen Liang is also hit in the face by flying rocks. At this moment, Nan appears to have freed himself from his bindings and has vanished. Meanwhile, Ono is searching the area and discovers the diary that Chen Liang had previously found in the house. Tina, Shen Yilin, and Ji Chun approach and notice something alarming, prompting them to quickly retreat. Ono rises, mistakenly believing the three girls are staring at him. However, he soon realizes they are focused on something else. Looking down, he sees Chen Liang dead, buried up to her neck in large rocks, with one rock stuffed into her mouth. Ono hesitates for a moment before hearing rustling in the tall grass. He swiftly grabs his large knife and rushes into the grass. He struggles with an unseen entity, and suddenly, Xiaolong is thrown across the tall grass, landing on his back. As Xiaolong regains his footing, Ono throws the cape at him, accusing him of being a murderer. Xiaolong insists that he found the cape and is not a murderer, but Ono remains unconvinced, still believing Nan is tied up where he left him. Xiaolong claims he can explain, but as Ono approaches, Tina intervenes, attempting to mediate between Ono and Xiaolong. Ono forcefully pushes her aside and kicks Xiaolong to the ground. He demands an explanation regarding the ghost, ties Xiaolong up, and confines him to a room. Ono then begins placing branches beneath the room while Xiaolong pleads for Ono to release him so he can clarify the situation. Ono pauses, stating he will let Xiaolong go once he provides the map. Xiaolong protests, claiming he does not possess the map and urges Ono to untie him. At this point, Ono retorts that Xiaolong can go to hell. As he ignites some dry weeds he has gathered, he throws them under the house where he has Xiaolong is tied up walking away laughing, while hearing Xiaolong screaming "Let me go!" Ono looks down and sees the book that Cheng Liang had found and sits down on a rock outside and starts reading. While Ono is preoccupied by reading the book, he doesn't notice that there's an old abandoned truck behind him. The truck is slowly moving towards him, then all of a sudden the headlights come on and the truck is moving faster towards him. Ono turns and spots the truck approaching him. He darts out of the vehicle's path just in time. Furious, he draws his knife and charges toward the truck, flings open the door, and climbs inside only to discover that it is empty. An invisible force expels Ono from the truck, pursuing him until the vehicle corners him in the room of the abandoned house where he had confined Xiaolong. Ono meets his end. The girls, filled with fear, scatter except for Tina, who crouches down among some tall grass. She glances down and spots the diary Ono had been reading. She picks it up, and mysterious symbols begin to materialize on the page. The first two symbols read kill, followed by screams as Xiaolong approaches them as if in a hypnotic state. Shen Yilin and Ji Chun turn around, and the second and third symbols also read kill. Shi Nan appears, and the girls realize they are trapped, concluding that Xiaolong and Shi Nan must be collaborating as murderers. Shi Nan protests, claiming that this is not the case and asks for a chance to explain. Shen Yilin responds by telling him to keep his distance. Shi Nan approaches her, pleading for her attention. As he draws nearer, he grips her shoulders and implores her once more to listen. Ji Chun stealthily positions herself behind him and strikes him on the head with a sizable rock, rendering him unconscious. Xiaolong rushes towards Ji Chun, accusing her of murder, and begins to choke her. Amidst the chaos, a female spirit's laughter can be heard, prompting Shen Yilin to retaliate by sneaking up on Xiaolong and hitting him in the back of the head with another large rock. Tina calls out to Ji Chun and Shen Yilin, inquiring about the situation. They soon find themselves back at the house, where Ji Chun, armed with a stick, prepares to smash an urn. However, Shen Yilin intervenes, placing her hands on the urn and questioning the need to destroy it when they already have the killer in their midst. Ji Chun responds, stating, "It makes me feel better," while Shen Yilin remains silent. Ji Chun further explains that a shattered pagoda symbolizes a deceased individual, and she expresses her intent to break them all. Shen Yilin cautions her to exercise care and emphasizes the urgency of finding a way off the malevolent island. Ji Chun asserts that ghosts are akin to men, and thus she concurs with Shen Yilin. The two prepare to leave the house, but before they do, Tina mentions her need to use the bathroom and walks away. Ji Chun advises Tina to be cautious, to which Tina responds with a smug smile before departing. Once Tina is gone, Ji Chun poses a question to Shen Yilin, suggesting that the murderers might consist of two men and a woman. She points out that Tina attempted to prevent Ono from harming Xiaolong and was also the one who restrained Shi Nan. If her theory holds true, it implies that Tina is collaborating with Shi Nan and Xiaolong. Shen Yilin inquires about their options, and the scene transitions to Tina in the restroom, engrossed in the same diary. When Shen Yilin calls out to Tina, asking what she is doing, Tina hastily closes the diary. At that moment, Ji Chun arrives, and Tina expresses her desire to take a shower before their departure. Ji Chun questions the change in Tina's story from using the bathroom to taking a shower, prompting Tina to explain that she realized she was unclean and needed to wash up. Ji Chun accepts this and walks away, leaving Shen Yilin looking perplexed as she follows Ji Chun. Once they have left, Tina smiles, retrieves the diary once more, and resumes reading. The two girls return, curious about whether she still intends to shower. As Tina lifts her shirt, Ji Chun and Shen Yilin notice the diary tucked into her shorts. Tina asks them what they are staring at and raises a dirty sheet as a makeshift shower curtain. Ji Chun encourages her to take her time, assuring her that they will wait. Meanwhile, Shi Nan begins to regain consciousness, realizing he has been bound and blindfolded alongside Xiao Long. Xiao Long informs him that the ghost will not allow them any respite and will prevent their escape from the island. He starts to giggle, suggesting that he may have lost his grip on reality, and mentions the terrifying leprosy ghost. Shi Nan urges him to be quiet, asserting that he is aware of the situation. Suddenly, hooks attached to cables emerge unexpectedly as ropes begin to ensnare them. The large boulder against which they are pinned is struck by the hooks, impacting both Shi Nan and Xiao Long in the chest. Tragically, they are deceased. Meanwhile, Tina remains in the shower, with the book placed on a shelf in front of her. There is curiosity regarding the duration of her shower. Tina turns off the water, yet Shen Yilin and Ji Chun continue to observe her. Abruptly, the water resumes at a scalding temperature, causing Tina to feel a burn. As the shower heads activate, they attempt to avoid the hot water. An unseen force seizes Tina, enveloping her in the shower curtain she had used, and violently propels her from wall to wall, mirror to mirror, until she collapses onto the shower floor. Tina is dead. Ji Chun turns to look at Tina's body on the floor as she and Shen Yilin strive to assist her. Zhu Chyan experiences flashbacks, recalling the diary and the map associated with Tina. Shen Yilin urges her to hurry and inquires about her delay. Ji Chun instructs her to remain in place. Shen Yilin questions her destination but does not pursue her. Instead, she begins to run in the opposite direction, pausing for Ji Chun. Ji Chun steps over Tina's body to retrieve the diary. While examining the map, she notices that Tina's body has shifted, yet she cannot identify anyone who might have moved it. Ji Chun surveys her surroundings when she suddenly sees a corpse clad in a white dress approaching her, prompting her to burst into tears. Meanwhile, Shen Yilin, who is waiting for Ji Chun, hears her scream and, filled with concern, gradually makes her way to the door. Peering through the keyhole, Ji Chun, from within the bathroom, hands her a diary and a map, urgently instructing her to flee just before she is yanked back into the bathroom. Ji Chun is dead. At this moment, Shen Yilin stands as the sole survivor, sprinting through the tall brush amidst a torrential thunderstorm accompanied by fierce lightning. She stumbles and falls into a hole in the ground, with the map lying beside her. Upon regaining consciousness, she rises, disoriented and unaware of her location, but armed with a flashlight, she begins her search for an exit. After walking a short distance, she discovers numerous photographs hanging in the underground cave. Upon closer inspection, she realizes that all the images depict her. Overwhelmed by fear, a reaction that is entirely justified given her experiences, she instinctively steps back. As she retreats, she hears a voice calling out, "Hey!" Her feet land in a shallow puddle of water, prompting her to follow the water's path until she reaches dry land, where she finds herself in an underground tunnel system. She encounters a fallen totem pole and quickly flees upon hearing voices echoing within the tunnel. After a while, the lights illuminate the area, and as she surveys her surroundings to ascertain her location, a figure emerges from around the corner, dressed in what appears to be a monk's robe, their face obscured, and approaches Shen Yilin. She ascends a set of broken stairs, only to notice a hand reaching from beneath the ladder, offering her a rose. It is Peng Fei. He is alive. Peng Fei reveals to Shen Yilin that he and Jordan Chan, the man introduced at the beginning of the film, are half-brothers. He explains that he and his mother were sent to a leprosy colony as a sacrifice to preserve the family's wealth, and after his mother's passing, it was an unnamed Sister Anna who discovered him hiding inside the cave the day his mother died, then, later adopted him. He informs her that he possesses the 9 golden vessels, which have made him wealthy. He also reveals his intention to seek vengeance for his mother's death. As Peng Fei recounts his tale, Shen Yilin becomes increasingly frightened. In her attempt to escape, Peng Fei utters a few words, causing the door leading to the tunnel passageways to close on its own. Utilizing his night vision goggles, he playfully teases her before explaining that he was compelled to eliminate everyone due to their greed for his gold, which they either did not understand or did not care about its significance to him. Consequently, he felt he had no choice but to kill them. He further explains that his efforts to persuade her to leave stemmed from the numerous opportunities he provided for others to depart the island, but their greed prevented them from doing so. He watched as each individual was killed, equating 3 urns with 3 lives lost. Peng Fei speaks in a manner that suggests he is no longer human, resembling a ghost or an avenging spirit, likely a result of his upbringing on Leper Island. While he rants, Shen Yilin searches for a place to hide, though her efforts prove futile. She questions his motives for frightening her, to which he responds, "Are you afraid of me?" He approaches the photographs he has taken of her, and as Shen Yilin stumbles over an object, she pleads for her life. In her attempt to flee, he blocks her path, inadvertently knocking into a table holding 2 or 3 urns. Quickly, Peng Fei turns to catch the urns before they fall, apologizing to the ashes contained within. He then lowers the lenses of his goggles and pursues Shen Yilin, who is not far away in the confined space. He seizes her by the neck, restrains her to a table, and flips it to lay flat, removing her shoes in the process. As he quietly removes her shoes, he questions why their circumstances have led to this moment, expressing concern that she will be unable to care for their future children in her current state. The camera shifts focus from Peng Fei to a pickaxe resting against the table. As he inquires about her well-being, he reaches for scissors and a straight razor, while she gazes at him in sheer terror. He asks if her leg is in pain, to which she responds affirmatively before quickly shaking her head in denial as he applies antiseptic to her leg. Each time she jumps in response to the sting, he smiles and repeats the process. He then observes her closely, remarking that she resembles his mother, and instructs her to remain still so he can treat her wounds. While Peng Fei attends to her injuries, she notices the pickaxe and instinctively reaches for it, inadvertently knocking over a can that captures his attention. Looking up, Peng Fei sees Shen Yilin enter survival mode and kick him away. As he tumbles to the ground, she flips the table onto him, seizes the pickaxe, and begins striking the table with the flat side of the tool while he is trapped beneath it. She then rushes to the door that Peng Fei had ordered closed, manages to open it, finds a flashlight, and starts limping through the corridors, searching for an escape, all while wearing only one shoe. The camera then shifts to Peng Fei, who lies unconscious under the table. Shen Yilin continues her quest for freedom. She spots a wooden door and, peering through it, glimpses the outside world. After a struggle, she finally manages to open the door, only to find Peng Fei standing behind it, wearing goggles in the dimly lit cave, the light on his goggles flickering as he holds the pickaxe she had used. Upon seeing him, Shen Yilin instinctively backs away, shaking her head in disbelief, and flees in the opposite direction. Peng Fei begins searching for her. He was just where she had been but failed to locate her because she had concealed herself in the shadows and turned off her flashlight, prompting him to search elsewhere. As she sits up, her flashlight begins to flicker. When she turns to address the issue, she is startled to find Peng Fei beside her, wearing night vision goggles and staring intently at her. She hurls hay or straw at him and strikes him with a plank, causing him to stumble backward, resulting in a nail from the plank piercing his leg. Now agitated, he yanks the nail from his leg and resumes his pursuit of her, shouting, "Run!" As he chases her, he raises the pickaxe, striking pipes and boards, declaring that she will not escape the island. She flees, but Peng Fei quickly catches up to her, using the pickaxe to trip her, leaving her crawling. He then swings the pickaxe at her, though the exact point of impact is unclear, and she begins to cough up blood. He urges her to run, then uses the flat side of the pickaxe to smash her leg, eliciting a scream of pain from her. He prepares to strike her in the head with the pickaxe, but as he swings, it becomes lodged in the wooden frame above him within the cave's structure. Seizing the opportunity, Xin Yilin grabs a thick wooden stick and strikes Peng Fei in the leg where the nail had entered. He struggles to fend her off while attempting to free the pickaxe. Suddenly, he collapses but quickly rises, still trying to dislodge the pickaxe as a cave-in begins, yet he continues to pursue her. She retreats into a corner, and he seizes a pipe, attempting to strike her. In her struggle, she grips his arm to prevent him from hitting her. Peng Fei then grabs her hair, prompting her to bite his arm in an effort to escape. Once he releases her, she begins to drag herself out of the cave, with him trailing behind. However, he becomes trapped in the cave-in. Xin Yilin ultimately finds her way out of the cave, emerging through large double doors. She stands there, looking back in disbelief at the events that have just transpired. The end. I trust that you found my full movie synopsis enjoyable. You may connect with me on WordPress, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram under the handle Asian Mystery Horror. Thank you, and I look forward to next time.